Hello and welcome back to the 6th edition of the International Photography Festival right here at Sharjah Expo Center. Joined with me here is my guest co-host, Mike Browne, a veteran photographer, and also my eyes and ears into this industry. And starting off with our first interview here with us is Beno Saradzic.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Nice to have you. You've been here quite a few times, not only in the event, but also at Pulse 95.
Every time since the first time.
It's been an absolute pleasure, and we welcome you back to the event. How is it this time of this year?
Bigger than ever.
Beautiful.
Impressive, unbelievable amount of art, incredible roster of artists, and it's just amazing the way it's expanded, not just in terms of size, but in terms of messaging and all the awareness that photography can bring to the world.
Wonderful. Now, to give you guys a little bit of an insight, Beno is a multi-award-winning specialist filmmaker and photographer who has, over the last 18 years, has become a veteran digital artist, creating technically complex visuals that are executed with ambitious post-production techniques. He is a true photography scholar who conducts frequent workshops and seminars across the world, and here he is once again at the 6th edition of XPOSURE. It's an absolute honor. And Mike, I know you have a few questions you want to ask him.
Yeah, I have. They're probably, some of them are more like insights I want to share, because Beno and I have known each other for a little while. When you're doing these incredible time lapses, these beautiful, beautiful things that you create of the Emirates, the amount of footage that you must shoot, it must be an incredible amount of stuff. How do you go about assembling that when you come to edit this together, when you start to put together some of your films? Because it's kind of like a crazy thing, isn't it? You've got all this footage.
Yes. Well, it kind of helps if you know before you're shooting what it is that you'd like to convey. So it usually starts with an idea. Once you have an idea, that establishes a sort of a framework, a blueprint. And when I have that firmly established in my head, I start filling in the gaps. So I go out and I shoot what I need instead of shooting everything that I see and then later on trying to figure out how that giant jigsaw puzzle is going to fit together. It usually doesn't work. Or you put it together and you watch it and it just doesn't make sense, or it bores you. So it's better if you start with a good idea and then you approach it just like you would a film, with a script. Yeah. So even if you're shooting a film like a time-lapse that doesn't really have a narrative with words, you still have to say a story.
Absolutely, and like with stills photography as well, it's kind of like, you need to know where you're going before you take the shot, or else you end up coming home with a whole load of nothing. Because I once heard you say it's like tipping a pile of jigsaw puzzles onto the floor from different puzzles and trying to build a great picture.
It gets too complicated too quickly, and not only that, when you know what you're shooting, you only bring the gear that you need. I have 13, 14 cases of gear. If I was going to bring all of that to every location, I wouldn't be doing that very long. I'd need an appointment with my doctor for different places. So, yeah, I bring only what I need, and I shoot very specifically the shots that I have in my mind before that. So it's quite methodical.
What is it about photography that fills you up, that excites you? Because you're such a passionate guy.
Well, when it comes to time-lapse, it's the little surprises, because with time-lapses, you don't really know what you're having until you see it on a computer screen. So you're shooting a scene, you think you know what the action is going to look like, but it always manages to surprise you in some way.
And, a lot of us who live in these cities that have all these amazing architecture, what is it to you that, for just the general people, what is it that you see that they don't see?
That comes with experience. That literally comes, you have to train your eye. So when I started, I literally did not what I was doing, did not know what I was doing. I saw the image on the screen. I saw faults, I saw positives, and I worked on those positives as I went along. So I improved them. So I think that in the beginning, everybody's going to struggle.
I see.
It just comes with practice. It's no particular skill, maybe, I don't know, some given talent. But if you don't have the proper practice, no talent in the world is going to help you. So
yeah, you're
it's
right.
a combination of both.
And when it comes to modern architecture, a lot of it is inspiration from older works and projects and buildings. And you've been around the world. You've captured such phenomenal architecture. But what is it that that is something from the olden days that you wish could come back, that modern architecture doesn't take advantage of?
Look, I personally am a huge fan of sci-fi, written or filmed.
All right. So
I
any
take
favorite books?
All of them. Isaac Asimov's, pretty much all of them. So yeah, I build those visuals in my mind. I see those worlds and I try to sort of match them in the real world. That's where I draw my inspiration from. Dubai, UAE in general, some of the most amazing skylines in the world, truly inspired architecture. If you see it in a certain light, you see future.
Exactly.
You don't have to imagine it. It's literally in front of you. If I grab my camera, if I have the camera on me when I'm looking at that particular reflection of the sun in Burj Khalifa, for example, that is, you don't need to be inspired. This is an inspiration itself.
Yeah.
You just got to capture it. You got to capture that moment because you're going to want to see it again later on, and others will want to share it with you.
It's timeless.
Yes, it's absolutely timeless. It speaks for itself.
Exactly. And you reside in the UAE.
Yes.
A lot of your work is in Dubai, but whenever you make yourself to Sharjah, the Dubai is always seen as the future metropolis, but when you step into the cultural capital here in Sharjah, what is the difference, the shift that you see?
There are a lot of similarities and there are a lot of differences as well. So there's the historical part that has its own charm, but the modern part, it's incredible. In fact, just yesterday I shot one beautiful time-lapse of Sharjah from a rooftop, and it was a beautiful day-to-night transition, and it happens in 9-10 seconds, so it's a pretty cool shot. I just posted it this morning, so...
All right.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah, we're going to need to look out for that one. Where can people see that, Beno?
Which particular...
The one you posted this morning.
Oh, it's on Instagram, it's on Facebook, it's pretty much everywhere. I'm using it to promote the workshop itself. So
Absolutely. So go and have a look for Beno Saradzic. How do we spell your surname?
Saradzic.
Saradzic. I knew I'd get in
Saradzic,
trouble for that. I knew I'd get in trouble for that. Saradzic.
Now, you also have a workshop later today. This is called Slicing Time from 5 all the way to 8 o'clock. This is a 3-hour workshop that people can register to. Can you tell us a little bit about what this workshop is and what listeners can expect from?
I am going to talk very briefly about the history because you have to know where this came from and why, and how it became popular and why now. Because time-lapse is more than 100 years old as a technique, but it has been seen only in the scientific circles. So people who have practiced it in the beginning were scientists. But with the advent of digital photography and affordable, very high-quality digital cameras, suddenly has been revisited and rediscovered.
I see.
And time-lapse has never been as popular as today. So I'm going to teach them about where it came from, what gear you need to shoot it, what software you need, how the time-lapse actually comes from a still frame to a motion frame, and how just to tell a story with a time-lapse. So basically from A to Z.
All right. And in terms of time-lapse technology, a practice that, like you said, is almost 100 years old, even beyond that. Do you, a person of experience, do you feel like this practice still needs time to be refined, that there's more for improvement, that there's something yet untapped, undiscovered with this technique?
It is constantly improving. In fact, the techniques that I thought 6-7 years ago, they no longer apply today. Technology is getting better and better and cheaper and more affordable. So, for example, a time-lapse motion control rig that I used 10 years ago, which cost $25,000, you can get it today much smaller for about $2,000, and it's actually going to do all of those things and better.
And there's even on smartphones, time-lapse
yes,
is a
you can
feature
do it
now.
on a smartphone and very effective. In fact, I'm shooting them all the time. When I'm in the aircraft, I just, I attach my phone to the window and I'm just time-lapsing the whole trip. And that's usually my first post when I'm landing.
Personally, even I take advantage of the time-lapse. I would have, sort of like a hangout with the boys, and we're playing board games or something, and I want to just capture, a small moment of 2-hour session.
There you go.
And time-lapse is such a beautiful feature to take advantage of.
Decompressed time. Look, there's a very technical, very accurate, but horrible description of what is time-lapse. Basically, when you're capturing a sequence at a frame rate that is much lower than the one that you're going to be playing at normal speed, this is what time-lapse is, technically described. So if you're shooting at 1 frame per second and you're playing it at 25, then the time will be accelerating 25 times, thus lapsing.
Yeah, I see.
But the beautiful way of describing time-lapse is that it's magical because it allows you to see the unseen. It allows you to see the world from a new perspective. Motion of the star,
And
motion
it's
of
seamless.
the sun. It's
Yeah.
completely seamless. Imagine driving by construction site every day. It takes 2 to 4 years to construct a building. You can pass by every day, you look at the construction site and you don't really see the change. It's boring. But imagine the same construction from foundation all the way to the top,
Yeah.
played in 10 seconds.
So
That's absolutely magical.
it is. It's beautiful.
That is exactly what time-lapse is. It's a cinema magic.
And Mike Browne, you have experience in this line of work as well.
I have very little experience with,
In time-lapse?
With time-lapse,
Yeah.
no. I mean, I have spent a little bit of time in Iceland and sort of played around with the Northern Lights, but that's a very difficult thing to capture without something which can hold a very high ISO to capture the light. Have you ever done anything with that sort of thing, Beno?
I have done, yes. I've done the nature time-lapses. Like I said, it has so many different applications. If you go scientific or engineering or landscaping, artistic, there are a lot of different applications. Everybody nowadays requires a time-lapse somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely. We're seeing them in all kinds of different places. But also the equipment. You were talking just now about how the equipment is changing and
Yeah.
moving, and it's out of date so fast. Just looking at photography equipment in general at the moment, many cameras, we're still using like analog controls.
Yeah.
Shutter speeds and apertures and ISOs, but with a digital system, where do you see that moving forward? Do you think the old analog control system is likely to stay with cameras, or do you see a more simplified version?
It would be very hard to do what I do with an analog camera. It has to be completely digital and completely controlled. Every parameter has to be controlled. In fact, when you're shooting a time-lapse with a digital camera, it's not even the camera that you're operating. You're operating a device that controls the camera.
Totally.
So
Sorry,
it's-
I didn't put my question succinctly enough. Rather than trying to shoot time-lapse with an analog camera, do you see that the analog controls of a digital camera, such as we talk shutter speed, aperture, do you see that possibly changing?
No,
Because, you know, we have
absolutely
the time-lapse on a phone, and we sort of set things
Yeah, I
up
get
on a
it.
phone,
No,
but
no,
it's
no.
a different
Okay, I
set of
understand.
control.
No, it is a completely manually controlled process. So analog, as you call it. Yes, you definitely have to be you have to have a profound understanding of the camera, how the manual controls work, and you should not allow camera to do any sort of thinking and any sort of decisions on your behalf.
Yeah.
Because the moment camera starts deciding is when mistakes start to happen, and you're not going to like the end result.
I get the feeling there has been some projects completely foiled by
More than one.
man-made
More than
mistakes.
one. In fact, it happened last night.
Oh dear.
Yeah. And I fixed it, and it still looks good. So again, with experience, you even know how to mitigate any
Yeah,
problems.
to reduce as many errors.
Yes, because I knew that there could be such problem, and in fact, it did happen. So I was able to overcome it.
I think that's the beauty of an editor is that you know his work is good when you don't see the edit, right?
Correct.
Yeah, it's just
Correct.
a
When they
seamless
just say this is a really beautiful work, and they don't actually say, "Oh, I like how you fixed that." Yeah.
When you
much.
first started thinking, I want to start working with time-lapse, when was the first time-lapse you put together?
The
What
very
was
first
it?
time-lapse was in 2011, and I never intended to shoot one. I was a 3D animator at the time, and I was supposed to create a little introduction to Abu Dhabi before the 3D animation started. And I just thought that I should try something different. So I shot a video of Abu Dhabi, and I just sped it up. It was not a conventional time-lapse, but the client really liked the result. And it sparked something in me. Certain memories that I had of time-lapse that I've seen as a kid in a film called Koyanis Katsi by Godfrey Reggio, the film that aired in 1982, the very first time-lapse film.
I have never seen this.
No.
You should
I'll
watch
have to
that.
check it out.
That is an incredible film.
I'm
When
sure it's
it
also a
came
case
out-
study at this point.
Sorry?
If it sounds like a case study as well.
Yeah, it is a case study. I'm actually going to be talking about it today. So
What's the film again?
Koyanis Katsi, which comes from an old Indian Hopi language, which means
Okay.
life out of balance.
All right. So
It
this
is
must have
an
been
experimental-
revolutionary.
It's an experimental, non-narrative film. It came out in 1982, and when it came out, first of all, nobody understood it because it appears to be meaningless.
Yeah.
But over the years, it became a cult film. It now has truly a cult following. It is a film that literally changed the form.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. And I guess to wrap it up, I'd like to always, and I like to ask this to everyone, to those who are stepping into the industry for the first time, grabbing that camera or getting into 3D animation, what is that one advice you'd like to give them as they go down that path?
the simplest, just shoot more. A lot of people ask me a lot of questions. Is this gear good? Is this lens good? I'm just telling the same story. Forget about it. Shoot with whatever you've got.
Yeah.
Okay, just go out, make mistakes, fail, and try again. And you're going to realize very soon if this is actually for you. And with time-lapse, what I realized is that you need a lot of patience. But people who are not patient by nature are not going to last. Because if you're spending 3 hours on a rooftop shooting a sequence that lasts 10 seconds, once played in real speed,
Yeah.
it's not really the time well spent. You feel it like it. But it's really, really rewarding. So it takes patience and it just takes practice.
Especially in this world where we're so accustomed to instant gratification.
Instant gratification, exactly.
Absolutely.
Social media ruined us. Yeah.
If you can hold someone's attention for more than about 3 seconds, you're doing seriously well. And I guess also when you're learning this stuff, you spend your 3 hours on the rooftop. When you're learning, you've also got to be prepared to fail, which you touched on earlier.
Yeah.
You might spend those 3 hours out there and come back with something which just didn't work. You missed something, and that's always that pick yourself up, go back. It's all a skill, and skills have to be learned.
Yeah. I just like the rewards, like I said. I always find something that surprised me that I did not see. For example, I once shot a time-lapse from a rooftop from the 90th floor, and I was shooting a beach really far away. And there was a lot of people on the beach, and I time-lapsed that for a full hour. It just looked like a normal scene at the beach. When I played it, I found out in the accelerated motion, of course, I realized there was one person constantly walking left and right, left and right, left and right from a specific A to a specific B position and kept coming back. And he was talking on the phone and clearly arguing with someone. So there was like a motion, the pattern of motion that I couldn't see
Yeah.
as I was shooting that. So those little surprises.
A little
made me
story
laugh.
in the motion.
Sorry?
A little story in the
A
motion.
little story in the motion. Yeah.
story
You
in
could
the
actually see
story.
that he was arguing. He really had like a vibrant conversation with someone, and he was really upset, and it lasted for half an hour. And I literally could not see it from a distance. And then when I saw it, I sort of started zooming in post-production. You can actually see this guy going left and right between the people as they're just enjoying the day on the beach.
Beno Saradzic, thank you for being here with us. For all those who are looking to tap into time blending, time-lapse techniques, I urge you to check out his workshop that is taking place today, starting at 5 p.m. right here. You can register at workshops.exposure.ae, and you can come here to the Sharjah Expo Center. Beno, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
All the
Good
best.
to see you, man.
And be sure to check out his workshop if you're looking to really learn something new, something to take with you by the end of the day. Let's take a bit of a short break, and coming up next, we have yet another guest to basically get us into the world of photography. Once again, joined with me, Mike Browne. Definitely
I'm here.
excited. So guys, be sure to stay locked and stay tuned right here to Pulse 95.